let's take a look at architecture of the 20th century. And we'll look at about 6 or 7 images, pardon me, going from modern to the postmodern. All right, here we go. Before we get to the 20th century, remember we had House of Parliament, kind of neo-Gothic work of the 1800s. And then on the last tape, we talked about the first skyscraper by Sullivan. And now let's jump to the 20th century. Okay, our first one is Villa Savoye. It's a home by Corbusier of the International Style. Okay, International Style is very famous and very popular, and it dominates art from the 20s to the 50s, and it's international because everybody is doing it. And you can just look at it. It's geometric, smooth, straight, clean lines, glass, steel, a very modern kind of aesthetic. Okay, back to Villa Savoye by Corbusier. Here's his house, and it is very different from the Gothic. Less is more is the philosophy of International Style. Minimal, straight, clean. Also with the International Style of Le Corbusier is he had a quote where he said, "A house is a machine for living. A house should help you live better. It should be functional." And so his house is very, very functional. You can park your car underneath. It's got light coming through on the top. It's got it's very well designed, and he basically also loved the Greeks. The Greeks had a lot of the Greeks idea of math and beauty and kind of a something almost higher and beautiful in Greek art, he also wants in his house. So it's not just utilitarian, it's also beautiful. And if you look at it, you get, the Greeks had triangles and geometry. He has that here. So that's Villa Savoye. It's a very, very modern looking house, and that's Corbusier. The next guy on the list is Frank Lloyd Wright of Falling Water. He's not International Style, he's his own guy, and this of course is Falling Water, and this is really about nature and the site, and he integrates nature into the house. And if you remember, the site was very important, so he put the house on the waterfall, and he made the house look like the waterfall. Big theme of Wright, he likes cantilevers, these diving boards that pop out. That was a big thing that Frank Lloyd Wright did. And again, the house and nature, it's part of nature. He integrates the house into the tree into the house into the waterfall into the house. And then even the materials, he'll have a stone from the site in the floor. He was very big on the hearth as like the center, almost like kind of a primal center of a home. There is the water going through, and basically just this amazing home, Falling Water, Frank Lloyd Wright. Some people call it organic modernism, but I didn't want to confuse it. All right. He also designed a Guggenheim Museum that we'll see later. All right. And then he even has the tree that he keeps, that he integrates the house around a tree. All right. Seagram's building is going to be International Style, and you can just see it. Geometric, a rectangle, smooth lines, simple, glass, steel, International Style, Seagram's building. And again, it's less is more. It looks almost bronze, and that's a reference to Greek and the classical. It's got a vertical orientation, and it soars upward. It is also less is more. Seagram's building, International Style. Now we'll have a big break, postmodern. Let's go beyond the modern to the postmodern. House in Newcastle. And basically the house in Newcastle is going to be postmodern. A couple of mottos. One is less is a bore. They want to be decorative. And the other is past and present, juxtapose. Take an old column, put it on the new house. And you do it for fun, for decoration. So you can see the difference. Less is bore, less is more, less is a bore. And this was one of the first postmodern designs, and it's a house. All right. Then postmodern is going to take off in a lot of directions. It will not be, okay, modern is minimal and geometric. Postmodern is the opposite. The space it explodes in different directions. They'll put they like to refer to the past. They'll put a Romanesque arch on the bottom of the building. They'll put a hole up here. So it's going to be kind of playful and put the past and the present together. This looks like a new building, but it also looks like an old Gothic church. Then that'll lead to just all kinds of buildings, and let's go. Oh, Van Nuys looks more modern, and this is an LA Unified School that's more postmodern. All right, now we'll go to Frank Gehry. He's postmodern and deconstructivist, and deconstructivist is part of postmodern. That's where you like take something apart and put it back together again. It's kind of deconstructed in a different kind of way, but it's also postmodern. And that's his museum in Spain, Guggenheim. This was the Guggenheim that Frank Lloyd Wright made in New York in the 40s. They said to Gehry, make it better than Wright. So that's what he's going to try to do to make a museum experience even better than Wright's, which is so amazing. Most museums are kind of traditional like this. Traditional. Gary's going to go in this direction, not traditional. So that's a traditional museum. Gary's going to have exploding space. That's Disney Concert Hall. Okay, how does he do this? First, the outside materials, the titanium, different shapes, exploding space, just a different kind of experience. The light will impact the look of the building. So different times of day it looks different. He surrounds it with water that reflects. Yes, it looks like a ship. He loved ships. He loved sailboats when he was a kid. And he makes this amazing new museum with this certain museum experience. Here's a traditional museum. Here's the Gehry Museum. And you can see regular museum, the Gehry Museum. And that's Frank Gehry. Then the last one is MAXXI Museum. This one is also deconstructive. And what does that mean? It like you take it apart and put it back together in a new way. This is in Rome. Rome reminds us of concrete, the Pantheon. Columns. She has concrete columns, but in a new deconstructive way. She also is an Iraqi architect who moved to England. So this almost looks like if you take this mosque tower and took it apart into a ribbon, it would be like the ribbons on the inside. All right, that takes us from modern to the postmodern, and that wraps up the 20th century.